Nicholas Ganjei. I'm the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Texas. With me here at the podium are representatives of HSI, Houston PD, IRS, FBI, ATF, DEA, and the Harris County Constable Precinct 1. Together, we're here today to announce the results of more than a 5-year-long investigation into a wide-reaching illegal gambling operation here in the Houston area, specifically in the form of illegal game rooms. Yesterday afternoon, a coordinated effort of over 720 law enforcement agents and officers executed search warrants at 45 locations in the Houston area, 30 of them at these illegal game rooms. This operation was executed pursuant to a 37-count indictment against 16 defendants, alleging illegal gambling, conspiracy to launder monetary instruments, and bribery, as well as other charges. And the alleged mastermind at the center of this charged conduct was Nazir Ali. Ali is alleged to have used family members and other Confederates to operate his dozens of game rooms across Houston, to transport bulk currency proceeds between these rooms, and to launder those proceeds through businesses he controlled. The scheme itself was sophisticated in its design and its operation. It utilized armed security, surveillance systems, membership lists, and member ID cards to ensure that those that were accessing these game rooms were legitimate customers of theirs and couldn't otherwise expose the operation. These premises were obtained through the use of nominal straw lessees to further insulate Ali and his operation from law enforcement scrutiny. Ali is alleged to have protected this scheme by recruiting what he believed to be a corrupt Houston police officer, initially paying this officer $1,000 a week in protection money. But as the game room empire grew, so did these payments, with this officer receiving $10, $20, $30, and even up to $40,000 in cash at each of these meetings. Over the course of this conspiracy, Ali is alleged to have paid this undercover officer over $500,000, all with an eye towards protecting his enterprise from law enforcement. What Ali did not know is that this officer was an undercover agent working for investigators and law enforcement, all working to bring down this gambling enterprise from the inside. Ali was so confident in this operation that he actually offered to extend this police protection to other game rooms, of course, for a hefty fee. Gambling, of course, begins and it ends with cash. When you run a successful illegal gambling operation, you're going to have a lot of bulk currency. And you're going to need to find a way to deal with it. And so this indictment alleges that from 29 to 2025, this operation generated in excess of $22 million in illegal proceeds. So it's not just simply enough to obtain this illegal money. You have to find a way to clean it, to launder it. And here it is alleged that Ali paid his co-conspirators a percentage of the money to collect this bulk currency and to place it in other locations, in stash houses, and secrete it through legitimate businesses, or otherwise legitimate seeming businesses, and other hard assets such as real estate, luxury cars, and other items. Based on the number of assets seized, the number of real estate, other property, bank accounts, and such, as well as the number of agents used in this case, this is likely the largest Houston-based operation into illegal money laundering on the federal side, at least in the most recent years, in terms of illegal game rooms. I don't want to speak too much about that. I want to hand it off now to Chad Plantz, who will talk about sort of the operational side of things. Chad Plantz, the agent in charge of Homeland Security Investigations here in Houston.
Sure. Hey, good afternoon. I'm Chad Plantz, the Special Agent in charge of Homeland Security Investigations, Houston. I want to begin by thanking U.S. Attorney Nicholas Ganjei for hosting today's press conference and for his office's continued partnership throughout this major investigation. I'd like to recognize all of our partners, many of whom are here today: the Houston High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Program, the Houston Police Department, Harris County Sheriff's Office, the Harris County's Constable's Office, IRS Criminal Investigation, the FBI, ATF, and DEA, and the other 18 law enforcement agencies that contributed to this complex multi-year effort. And a special thanks, as you mentioned, to the more than 700 law enforcement professionals who executed yesterday's operation with outstanding professionalism and coordination. Yesterday marked the culmination of a 5.5-year joint investigation into what we believe is one of the largest gambling and money laundering schemes in Texas history. This criminal enterprise, allegedly led by Nazir Ali, a 61-year-old citizen of Pakistan, operated around 40 illegal gambling locations across the Houston area and generated nearly $22 million in illicit proceeds over a 10-year period. During the operation, 85 warrants were executed at 45 locations. And to date, that's resulted in 14 criminal arrests, 31 administrative arrests, the seizure of over 2,000 illegal gaming machines, the seizure of 8 firearms, the seizure of 10 residents and numerous high-end vehicles that are alleged to have been purchased through the criminal proceeds. Nazir Ali and 15 others are accused of using legitimate business to hide illegal gambling operations and launder their proceeds through over 25 bank accounts across the region. During the operation, $6 million in criminal proceeds were seized from these accounts, and another $4 million in criminal proceeds were seized from residents across the area. HSI special agents have also uncovered evidence showing that criminal enterprise hired illegal aliens to serve as armed guards at the game rooms. Illegal aliens were also allegedly hired to work at other businesses controlled by Nazir that supported the criminal enterprise. During the operation, HSI special agents identified 31 undocumented aliens who were either employees or patrons of illegal gambling and businesses. These individuals were turned over to ICE's enforcement removal operations for processing on immigration violations. In closing, I want to thank again all the law enforcement partners for their support. Teamwork that's been on display throughout this investigation is really a testament to the unbelievable partnerships that exist in the law enforcement communities across Texas. By coming together with a common mission, we've exposed and dismantled one of the largest illegal gaming and money laundering operations in the state's history and taken another significant step in our efforts to eradicate organized crime in the Houston area. Thank you. Sir.
All right. With that, I'd like to open it up to questions. Yes. Well, I guess I would answer that in 2 parts. Number one, this was a whole of law enforcement approach because you never know what you're going to find in these locations. Vice attracts vice, and we would expect to encounter drugs, prostitution, those kind of things being operated out of a game room. Not saying that's specifically handled here, but we wanted to be ready for that on the front end. Second, when you talk about a larger operation, I tend to think this is an extremely meaningful case. I think that there's a tendency to see certain quality of life crimes, prostitution, game rooms, illegal gambling. Maybe it's not taken as seriously as it should be or enforced as energetically as it should be. And I'm not talking about law enforcement. I'm talking about as a community. And that maybe we, as the people that live in Houston, we see our community and we say, you know what, that's just having that game room on the corner and the people hanging out there all hours of the night and, doing drugs or drinking outside, prostitutes being there on the track. That is just something we have to deal with living in Houston. And I think a case like this shows that that doesn't have to be the case, that we are going to vigorously prosecute state and federal laws whenever they are broken. Yeah. We felt that we had sufficiently proven our case, obtained the proceeds, and we're in a better position to execute a large-scale operation. Indeed, hitting 30 game rooms at once is no easy feat. We did that. We shut them down. We seized, I believe, $16 million in proceeds. All of that, I think, bears the fact that we let this get into a position where we were best able to act. Well, I don't want to speak too much about that person's identity, but they were somebody that was working with federal law enforcement and also had local status in police. This officer first made inroads into Mr. Ali in 2019. If you look at the cash that is alleged to have been paid by Mr. Ali, it started very small, $1,000 a week, a gift of a Rolex, but over time it grew and grew and grew, commensurate with his trust in this officer as well as the growth of the enterprise, ultimately reaching over $500 million. I'm sorry, $500,000. Oh, no, of course not. This undercover officer was there for the explicit purpose of infiltrating this game room. All of the money that was paid is collected and it's evidence in a future trial against the defendant. No, I don't want to go too far outside the indictment. My understanding is that he was masquerading as somebody that had the ability to move focus away from game rooms. Yeah. Well, ultimately, there's a criminal forfeiture action that's committed because it's illegal proceeds. It's not something that's going to be given back unless the people are actually innocent and they can actually show that this money was legitimately obtained. So that is going to be forfeited. Any other questions? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, this goes to the earlier comment I made about this being a wide-ranging criminal activity. And I don't think that the people of Houston necessarily want to simply say, well, it's just gambling. Sure, it's against the law, but you know what, I'm going to let it go. Ultimately, we live in a democracy. We elect our representatives. Those representatives enact state law, they enact federal law. What was going on here was in violation of both state and federal law if these facts are proven at trial. And so it seems to me that the people of Houston would, in fact, want enforcement of these sort of enterprises. Yeah. Yes, in the back. Yeah, I'm not going to speak to any sort of public policy of gambling as a whole. I'm speaking about legal gambling here, but anytime that the grip of gambling can get a hold of somebody, it's very difficult to shake loose. And I hope that person finds the treatment that they would like. I do not believe that nobody here is being charged with simply gambling. It's for people that were operating this criminal scheme and laundering the proceeds. Yes. The people that were, I don't want to get, again, too far outside the indictment, but the idea that he would offer these services in exchange for a percentage of the profits. So I should probably leave it there. Thank you.
We know there are other gaming operations out there. What's your message to anyone running an illegal gaming operation?
Find a new line of work. Yeah. We do not have any sort of specific instructions to charge racketeering, but anytime that you have a large criminal enterprise that's operating with a pattern of criminal activity, we are going to bring the most serious, readily provable offense. That general guidance has been given by the Department of Justice to always charge the most serious, readily provable offense. That we're not public policy makers. We're not here to decide what laws should and should not be enforced. Okay. Yeah. There was an assault on an officer, I believe that was alleged during the execution yesterday by a patron. But in terms of actually violent conduct by the operators, I am not currently aware of any. But again, I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to say it for a third time, but I think I wouldn't want to live next to a game room. I don't know if you would like to live next to a game room. I don't know if anybody in this room would want to live next to a game room, but those places exist and they affect their community in which they're placed. And so I'm not speaking specifically about the ones here, but as a general matter, I don't think people want to live next to an illegal gambling establishment. Yes, last question. I definitely could not get into that. Thank you. All right. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to also, again, extend my thanks to our law enforcement partners, both federal and local, who did a tremendous job in this case. I think the Houston community is going to be better off for it. Thank you very much.